Bismillah. Welcome back, Zoo Crew. So, before I guess we even get started on like today's topic, let me address why I say Bismillah before I start the video. Um, in Islam, you're supposed to say Bismillah before you do things, and this is essentially like saying in the name of God, right? So, I don't know if this adds any like protection to me or helps me come up with a better video, but like some of like the Islamic content I'll consume on YouTube, I noticed that a lot of these creators start their video in the same manner. So this is something I just picked up and was like, okay, cool, let me do the same thing, you know? So yeah, today we're gonna talk about preparing for the new year. And this is the thing, in all honesty, like it's a bit late in the game. Like if you're preparing for 2026 now, like literally like 3, 4 days before the new year starts, um, you're doing something wrong, you know? And this is the thing, because I've like come from the world of like mindset coaching, real estate investing, I've associate and like just general like entrepreneurship and then like being involved in the world of entrepreneurship since like I'm a kid. I've had access to a lot of like high performers or like very successful people, and like even within taekwondo, right? Because like I've gone with like Team Canada to the world championships before, and like I see how these like athletes train and like prepare for competition, right? So there's a lot of key themes that like translate from first of all like being a top athlete to being a top performer in business, or really just like being a top performer in anything that you do, right? So look, obviously like I'm not where I want to be in life, but that doesn't discredit my whole life experience, right? Like I've lived multiple lives. I've done more things in like my 33 years, and like I've attempted more businesses than like, and like of course like yeah, I've attempted a bunch of these businesses and failed at them, but I've tried more times than most people will ever try like once in their life, right? So I've learned a lot about a lot in my short time here on this planet, you know? And the key theme has been that people like, so in the same way that like I was saying, if you want to have a good morning, like you have to prepare the night before, right? So in the same manner, if you want to have a good start to your year, you have to start preparing at least 1 month before, if not like at the start of the last quarter, right? So like October, November, like you should already have your plan in place for what you want to do in the new year. And the reason I'm saying start it out so early is you're going to tweak it along the way, right? Like you're not going to just put together a perfect plan and then it's going to work. So if you start a couple months, like 3 months before the new year, you have time to make adjustments. You can see what's working for you, what's not working for you, and then alter the plan accordingly. So then when the new year does hit, you're not making more changes, right? Like you're not using your mental bandwidth to come up with how I'm going to spend my day, how am I going to spend the next month, how am I going to spend the next year, right? Everything's already planned out. And like I'm pretty sure there's like a quote where it's like failure to prepare is like preparing for failure, something like that, you know? So and again, like in terms of like goal setting, even like this was a huge thing that like we would focus on like while I was at Black Card, right? So like Stefan literally had his own journal created, the High Performance Journal by Stefan Aarnio. Like you can't buy it anymore and it doesn't exist, which is like a super sad thing. But his life coach and him put this together, right? And like his life coach was my life coach, and like he was literally my coach, right? So and like I had to pay a ton of money. So like anybody who knows or like tried to get into Black Card University or like have Stefan as their coach, you'll know like he was only dealing with platinum students. So like unless you're paying 70K, like you're not getting access to this guy, right? So this is the thing, like you can take whatever I'm saying and like apply it to your life or not. Like I'm literally giving you guys the same information I had to pay for free, right? And like really like that's another thing. It's like I've done so much in my life, and like if I was to really like stand on it and be like, yo, this is who I am, like I could be charging people like up to $1,000 an hour for my time, right? Just because like I'm very knowledgeable about many things. I can connect a lot of dots and I can put systems together, right? And I guess this is a good segue because the whole notion of like having a life plan or like having goals comes down to systems, right? If you have good systems in place, when your motivation is gone and you're just relying on discipline, your systems are going to bridge the gap, right? Because it's very easy to go to the gym. It's very easy to like eat clean and pray on time, read, and all of these things when you have motivation, right? This is why when the new year happens, you see the gyms are full. People are like on their new diets and stuff because everyone has this collective motivation to be a better person, right? And then what happens when that motivation is gone and there's no discipline behind the motivation? The gym's empty. People are back to their old diets, right? People are back to their own old habits. So this is the thing, you have to cultivate your sense of discipline, and you gotta, and like it's like a muscle again, right? So like the more you try to build your discipline or cultivate it, the stronger it gets. And honestly, it's much easier to build discipline if you have good systems in place, right? So what Stefan used to say was you need to have, you set goals for each quarter, and it should be like a health goal, a wealth goal, and then like a happiness goal, right? So the health goal, it's pretty straightforward, something to do with your health. But the framing of your goal has to be important, right? Because our brains are wired in a way to like make whatever we think become reality, right? So if you're framing it as like, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, your brain can't comprehend how to lose something. It's not designed to lose things, it's designed to hold on to things, right? So you have to reframe it as like, I want to go from pant size 36 to 32 or like 34, right? And then wealth goals, same thing. Like you want to have like a specific amount of money you want to make within a specific amount of time, right? So like your goal could be I want to make $100,000 within 12 months. And then outside of this, like people move towards two things, right? So you're either moving towards something that's giving you pleasure or you're running away from something that gives you pain. So you have to have some kind of a reward. So if you accomplish your goal, you're going to have this reward. So now you're moving towards pleasure. But then at the same time, if you add in like a consequence, so if I don't achieve this goal, then you have to do something that is very painful for you to do, right? So in this case, it could be like pay all of your friends $100, right? And like if you don't have money, like that's going to be a very painful thing to do. So again, this is what I'm saying. Like if you have good systems in place, that's going to carry you through when your motivation is not there. Because now you're relying on the system. You're not just relying on your discipline, right? And then the happiness goal, this is like an interesting one. This is kind of like um once a week I'm gonna connect with a friend, right? Whether that's like a phone call or something like that, or like you're gonna tell three people in your life that you love them, right? So just things that are like good for your spirit. And then so my kind of whole take on this is there's three buckets. So you have a to have like a good life, right? So you need a strong body, mind, and soul. So the buckets would be health, knowledge, and then spirituality, right? So in your health bucket, that's going to be everything that you need to do to live a healthy lifestyle. So meal prepping, setting a menu, doing groceries, going to the gym, taking supplements, sleeping on time, waking up on time, right? Sleeping and waking up at the same time every day. So if you set your bedtime to 9 p.m. so you can wake up at 5 a.m., that means if somebody invites you out late in the day and you know you won't make it home on time, that means you have to say no, right? You have to like stick to what you want to do because you can't just do like, so like the way Stefan would have said this is you can just go in the jungle with like a machete and just be like chopping away, or you can have like a system and then use that, right? Um, or like you could be like a gunslinger where like you're just out and about like shooting off at shit, you know? So these ways, like if you just go at things without a plan, it's gonna be very hard to like stick to the plan because you don't have a plan, right? So in terms of like this health bucket, I'd say those are the main things. And then like you would break down those main things into like your day to day, right? So let's say you have one day off a week. That means you're going to be doing most of your meal prepping, grocery shopping, etc. on that day off, right? And then while you're like, if you have work at a set time, now you got to like find in your schedule, in your like 14 to 16 hours that you're awake, first of all, where are you gonna like make time to eat, and then make time to like actually have some kind of exercise, right? Whether that's like just cardio or like lifting weights. And I think it's important for everybody to like lift weights. Like even if you're a woman, like I'm not saying go lift like crazy heavy weights, but just like some kind of weightlifting, it's good for your like mental health, right? So when I'm saying health, it's like physical health, mental health, emotional health, like all of these things I consider health, because if one of these things goes sideways, you'll notice like your life starts to fall apart, right? And like myself included, like I haven't been maintaining my routine at all for the last 2 weeks, like since this whole Saskatoon trip, right? And like that's on me, like I chose not to stick to my routines. And then sure enough, like as the like weeks went by or the days went by, I could feel like I'm becoming less centered, I'm becoming more empty, I'm becoming burnt out, like I'm like pouring from an empty cup and not refilling my own cup, right? And then so like now the next bucket would be, I guess, knowledge, right? And when I say knowledge, this means like first of all like learning about things that you want to learn about, but then also like improving your skills. And like for me, knowledge is the same as your like wealth goal, because if you don't have any real knowledge or skills, you're not going to become wealthy. And there's a huge misconception, like people want to be rich, they think they want to be rich, and it's like you don't want to be rich, you want to be wealthy, right? And what's the difference? So rich is measured in dollars. So let's say I make $100,000 in a year, by metrics I'm rich, right? But now if I have 50K in expenses or I have 100K in expenses, at the end of the day I have nothing, I have $0, right? And then wealth is measured in time. So being wealthy means like you have enough of a net worth that you could survive off of that without having to work, right? So this means like you own real estate, you own a business, you have investments, right? And those generate enough cash that if you decided not to work for the rest of your life, you won't go broke. Like you'll still have money to survive, right? So that's a key distinction. Is you don't want to be rich, you want to be wealthy. And to become wealthy, you need to learn how to become wealthy. This is not something that you just fall into, right? And this is why, like they say, the first generation builds it, the second generation expands it, and the third generation loses all of it, right? Because by the time you're third generation wealthy, you're like you haven't learned any of the skills that were required to either build the wealth or scale the wealth, right? And I've seen this firsthand in my own life from like the whole Ashbury crowd, right? There's a lot of these people who are like whose parents are super super wealthy and like they're third generation, but they don't have any of like the knowledge around credit, finance, investing, business, etc., right? They never learned these skills. So and like even beyond this, like if you just have a job, it's going to be impossible for you to create wealth. The system is designed in that way, right? So, and like, look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a job, right? There's nothing wrong with having a career. And in most cases, you need to have the job before you can look at investing or before you can look at like starting a business. And again, like most people shouldn't even own a business, right? Like you have to be a very certain type of crazy and you have to have a very high risk tolerance to even consider going into business, right? So now when I'm saying knowledge, let's use my own life as an example, right? So that means journaling. That mean well, I guess journaling I would put in health, but that means reading. So like minimum, I'm reading 10 pages a day of a nonfiction book. Then outside of that, it's like I want to spend at least 30 minutes a day learning about Islam, right? Then I'm also like I've purchased a bunch of courses, so it's like I want to be pursuing these courses. Now outside of that, it's like I also want to be learning more languages, right? And there's multiple benefits of knowing multiple languages, especially with the way the world's going. It's becoming a very global economy, right? So if you can speak now Arabic, you can speak Mandarin, you can speak Japanese, Spanish, French, English, like you have more skills and knowledge, and by proxy, you have access to more people and more opportunities, right? So knowledge will always convert into wealth, in my opinion, anyways, right? It's just you have to have the right knowledge. Um, so like this is what I mean. Like if you learn about investing, you'll learn that like you don't want to be rich, you want to be wealthy, and then you're gonna learn about money, how to make money, and you're gonna learn like what the heck is a high income skill, right? You're gonna have to learn about sales, you're gonna have to learn about marketing. all of the things you need to be successful in business or as an entrepreneur, right? Because like when I got into entrepreneurship, I did this all backwards. And just given that I'm such an introverted person, I focused mostly on like branding and marketing, right? And then like the fundamentals of economics and the fundamentals of investing, right? So I'm very good at underwriting deals. I'm very good at breaking apart the math of a real estate deal or a business. And then again, spotting trends and patterns and like scoping out good business opportunities, right? However, it's only when I met Stefan that I started to learn about sales. And actually, no, scratch that. It's really only when I joined the internal team at Black Card. So when I became a Black Diamond licensed partner and then when I became operations manager, that's really when I learned sales. And like that was hardcore sales because we were on the phones and literally calling people who bought a book, like $20 book, maybe like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, at some point in time, right? So they don't know who you are and you're calling them like, hey, how's it going? And then the goal of that phone call, and this is all happening over the phone, right? Was to sell them a coaching package. And like our cheapest package was $15,000 all the way up to 70K. And then if they didn't want to, and like this is a cool thing because a lot of companies or people when they're selling, they'll start at like the cheapest product and then they'll upsell you into an so and then a higher product and then upsell you again, right? So like an average person would be like, okay, let me sell you a book, then let me sell you a course, then let me sell you a coaching. What we were doing was uh we were literally starting at coaching and then downselling into a course and then downselling into the books, right? And again, like the books became mandatory homework. So if you wanted to buy coaching and like get access to it, one of the coaches in the company, you had to read the first two books. You had to buy the homework bundle, which was 4 books and like a bunch of other things, right? And what did this do? So like if somebody transacts $200 with you, now when you ask them to throw down $2,000 deposit on like a $15,000 coaching program, they're more likely to spend that money because you've already built the trust, right? And there was like, I'm not gonna get into the whole internal sales system of how we were doing this, but literally like on a 30-minute phone call, like we were closing people for coaching programs anywhere from 15,000 to 70,000, right? And that's like a 30-minute phone call. So that's what it means to have a high income skill, right? And sales is one of the best high income skills you can ever develop because sales is literally your whole life, right? And there's a saying, I don't know who said this, but it's like everyone is a salesperson. It's just the good people know they're salespeople, right? So you want to ask a pretty girl out, that's sales. You want to get a job, you're selling them on why to hire you, right? You want to have a raise, same thing. You're selling them on why they need to pay you more money. Even when you're like a baby and you're crying, you're selling your parents on feeding you, right? So everything in life is sales. So it's up to you whether you want to get good at sales or not, right? And then the final bucket is like spirituality, right? So this is where like prayers or like finding some kind of religion that like resonates with you, learning about the religion. You could even like put journaling into this, like reading the scriptures, and then what else? I mean, so right now those are like the main things in my spirituality bucket. I haven't really like, I guess meditation you could also add into this, right? And then I guess you could also put like self care into the spirituality bucket. So like going to the spa and stuff. But like that could also fit into the health bucket, right? So which bucket you put this in isn't that important. It's just that like you have these three buckets. So you need to have a strong mind, body, and soul. So you need to like figure out your goals and then put them in these buckets, right? And then create the sub goals. And I think everyone should use a physical planner. Like I know everyone is super like digital and like, oh, I'm just gonna use my phone as a calendar, or I'm just gonna like, yeah, and it's like cool, you could do that, but writing out your goals is a very powerful thing, right? And it's not like you're just gonna make your goals, write them out for the New Year's, and then forget about it. Like you should be looking at your goals like once a week, really, or like once a month if you can't do it once a week, or like really you should do it once a day, right? Because that's going to keep you focused. That's going to keep you on track. And that's going to increase the likelihood of you achieving that goal, right? So for me personally, I like this thing. It's called the Full Focus Planner. It's very similar to like the high performance journal that Stephen created, but like on steroids, you could say. And like it breaks down everything about goal setting, right? So like people have heard of SMART goals, but then beyond that, it's like smarter goals And I'm forgetting what the acronym stands for, but you can just Google it, right? Like, what is a smarter goal? It's essentially like you have to have something small, measurable, um, action oriented, something that you can track, etc. But just Google it, you'll get the actual answer, right? Or go get a high performance journal, high performance planner, rather, not the high performance journal. That's a different thing, right? And then the way this is set up is you're going to set your annual goals. So you're going to set goals for the whole 12 months. You're going to set anywhere from like 7 to 12 goals. You want to have at least 2 to 3 goals per quarter, you could say, right? I would say five at the most, but really you want to have 2 to 3 main goals you're pursuing every quarter, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to break those goals into sub goals. So it's like, let's say my goal is to go from pant size like 36 to 32, right? Now my sub goal is going to be lift weights 5 times a week, eat 3 clean meals 5 times a week, sleep and wake up at the same time, right? And now those 3 sub goals are very easy to do. Whereas like if I'm just thinking of this one big goal of, oh, I need to like go from this pant size to this pant size, it becomes overwhelming. When you break it into smaller goals, then it's like easier to do, right? And then, so the way this works is whenever you wake up every day, you have your big three. So you pick the 3 most important things you need to accomplish for that day. Then you list out all your other tasks. Then you prioritize them. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So once you get your big 3 out of the way, now you can focus on your other tasks, right? So this is going to help you stay very focused. I think that's why it's called full focus planner. And like outside of this, there's a weekly review. So once a week, you're gonna review what worked, what didn't work, what habits you wanted to maintain that you weren't able to maintain. It has a habit tracker, etc. And then again, like you're gonna write your goals for the next week and you're gonna review the goals you set for the quarter, right? And this is very important to do. If you want to achieve your goal, you have to be constantly writing it down and you have to constantly be reviewing it so you stay on track, right? So the times I'm not using a planner and like just relying on my phone, those are the times where like I will just get sidetracked and I'll end up on random ass side quests, right? Doing things that aren't moving the ball forward, like they're not moving the needle forward. And like, look, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Sometimes you need to just chill, you need to like relax, you need to recalibrate, right? It's like when you're shooting on your gimbal and you're noticing it's like wobbly or like the camera's just tilting or like something's going wrong, like you have to recalibrate the gimbal, right? So life is the same way, you know? You got to be willing to recalibrate your life when you need to. So, yeah, I think those are the main points I wanted to discuss today in terms of like goal setting, vision board. So I guess vision board we haven't really talked about. Like vision board essentially this means like you're gonna have like a big ass cork board or some kind of board, and then you're gonna put pictures of like your dream life. So if you want a Lamborghini, you're gonna put a Lamborghini on there. You want to have a jet, you're gonna put a jet on there. You want to travel the world, you're gonna put that on there. You want to have like a six pack, you're gonna put that on there, right? Like all of these things, and then you're gonna put it in a place where you see it every single day. So when you wake up, or like when you're not having motivation and you feel like your discipline isn't enough or your systems aren't strong enough, at least when you look at the vision board, that's gonna potentially give you some motivation to go and do those things that you want to do, right? Is going to help you accomplish whatever goals you have in life. I think even before though you can get into goal setting or like building out like a system that's going to maintain your goals, you need to pause, you need to audit your life, right? You need to look at what habits you already have and then figure out which habits you got to replace with better habits, right? But then you also need to know like where you're trying to go in life and like are you aligned with that and are your goals aligned with that, right? Because if you don't have like an end destination in mind, you can set as many goals as you want, but like you won't accomplish those goals ever, right? And it's because there's no real motivation or desire to accomplish those goals. So even if like you have all the systems in place, you're using planners, you're writing your goals down, you're probably not going to achieve those goals just because they don't serve any real purpose, right? And so what I'm saying is like you determine like where you want to go. What does your dream life look like? And how does that like dream version of yourself live, right? What time do they wake up? Where do they live? What kind of car do they drive? How do they dress? Do they go to the gym, etc., right? And then from there you can backtrack, right? So it's like like for me, let's say like if I want to move to like a Muslim country, because like eventually I do want to relocate to a Muslim country. I haven't like figured out where yet because there's a few good options, but like that's the goal. So it's like I do like I so it's like I could be like, okay, well, I want to move to Toronto, and then from Toronto I'll move to like Dubai, right? But it's like my goal should be I should remember the goal is to move to Dubai, right? It's not move to Toronto. So now I gotta build my life or my goals in a way that's gonna help me get to the final destination, right? Because if you just set it like, okay, well, let me just move to Toronto, it's like you're gonna live your life in a way that you're gonna end up in Toronto, not necessarily end up in Dubai after that, right? So always have like the end vision in mind and then reverse engineer everything you need to accomplish and the person you need to become to achieve that lifestyle or goal, right? And your lifestyle is literally just your behaviors, right? Because your behaviors are your habits and your habits are your beliefs. So whatever you believe, your mind is going to create. So if you believe that you're like a worthless person, or if you believe that you're not capable, or you believe that like you're the worst person, or you believe that everyone else is better than you, your life is literally going to look like that. Your brain is going to do things or like bring chaos into your life to a point where like that becomes your reality, right? And on the flip side, if you're telling yourself, yeah, I'm a confident person, I'm a great entrepreneur, I'm a smart person, I'm very capable, and like I understand these opportunities, your brain is not going to make that a reality, right? It's literally going to present opportunities to you and you'll be aware of these things, right? So your brain is literally a supercomputer and you got to learn how to use it effectively, right? Same thing, your body like will give you cues and signals. So if you haven't had enough water, your body's gonna give you a cue, right? And if you haven't had enough food, again, like if you don't have enough nutrition, like the way our bodies are designed, like it's literally gonna give you cues. And like I guess this is part of why now it's like I have less stress, anxiety, or depression. Because like if I'm living in the past, that's where I'm like getting depressed. If I'm living in the future, that's where I'm getting anxiety. And like if I'm living in the present, it's like I'm gonna do my best and leave the rest in God's hands. So like if something bad does happen, I don't even stress about it because it's like this is part of God's plan, and like I have faith things will work out. Everything will work out in the end how it's supposed to, right? Because they say like you'll have a plan, and then God has a better plan. So just rely on God's plan. You know, don't try and like take on all this extra stress or like worry about XYZ people, what they think about you, what the community thinks about you. Like you know, or like if it's even possible. Like if you can imagine it, you can accomplish it because everything you use in your day-to-day life, everything you see in your day-to-day life, some random dude, literally just like you or me, created it, right? It's not like there's some super genius. Like it's just some dude was like, oh, let me invent a spoon. Some dude was literally like, oh, let me invent a pillow. Like some random person out there literally invented everything we use in our day-to-day life. So if they can do it, why can't you and me do it? You know, especially given the age we live in, like we have access to so much information for free, and like you have access to experts around the world without having to physically go there, right? In ancient times, if you wanted to gain knowledge, you had to travel, you had to physically travel, you had to seek out these few individual sources or people of knowledge. Now you don't have to leave your home and you can learn anything you want, and you can have access to experts and scholars, right? So make the most of your day. So I guess before actually we even end this, like we should mention about gratitude, right? So if you start your morning writing down three things you're grateful for, that's going to prime you and like frame you. So throughout the day, you're looking for things to be grateful for, right? And let's say you wake up and you can't figure out a single thing to be grateful for. If your goal is every day I need to write down three things I'm grateful for, throughout the day, you're going to be looking for things to be grateful for, right? And when you're grateful for like everything you have, you'll generally have a happy life, you'll have an easier life, and you'll find that you get more blessings along the way, right? Because you're appreciating every little thing that you have, right? And it ties into like what we talked about before. Like if God gave you this Ferrari and you're not appreciating it, why would he give you anything else? You know? And like the fact is, like the biggest blessing anybody can have is you woke up another day. Every single day you wake up, that means you have a new chance at life. So whatever went wrong the day before, like that day is over. Now you have a new chance to like live as you want to live, you know, be a better person and grow as a person, etc. Right? So The greatest blessing you have is like you woke up another day. So say Alhamdulillah, like you got another chance to live. Not everyone is gonna wake up tomorrow, right? Some people are gonna die in their sleep. Some people are gonna die before they even fall asleep, right? That's the reality of the world. The only thing everyone is guaranteed is death. So live your life in a way that you are reaching your potential, right? And live your life in a way that your reputation precedes you and your character precedes you, right? So like when people meet you, they already know who you are and like they already know how good of a person you are, right? So let your actions speak louder than your words, and don't let like external noise dictate your life, you know? Don't let people influence your life. And at the end of the day, nobody can tell you how to live your life. You have to figure it out for yourself, right? Doesn't matter if it's your mom, your dad, your sister, your husband, your boyfriend, your friends, colleagues, coworkers, whatever, right? Every single person lives a very unique life. Everyone has their own reality, and everyone's reality is accumulation of their own knowledge and experiences, right? So nobody can tell you how to live your life. Nobody can give you actual real advice, right? People can kind of guide you, people can kind of point you in the right direction, but ultimately it's on you. You have to decide who you want to be as a person, how you want to live, and then act in that way, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's I pretty much think everything I wanted to talk about today. And I know yesterday was like a super short video, but this is what I mean, right? So like my motivation was not there, my discipline was there, and like the discipline was there, but like the system also carried me through, right? Because I had everything already set up. I just literally had to click record, right? So if I didn't have like a system in place and like I wasn't just good at like talking off the top of my head, like I probably would have skipped yesterday's video, and then that would have ruined my own self-confidence because like I told myself I'm going to do a video every day for 90 days. So now if I don't keep the promise to myself, I'm not going to trust myself, right? I'm not going to have any confidence in myself. I'm not going to like have self-worth, and then why would anybody else trust me, right? Or rely on me? Because it's like if I'm saying I'm going to do this thing and then I'm not doing it, like my body is just going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't give a shit, like he says one thing and then doesn't do it, you know? So literally keep the promises you make to yourself first. So if you tell yourself you're going to go to the gym every single day, go to the gym every single day. If you tell yourself you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, wake up at 5 a.m. every day, right? And the more you do this, the more self confidence you're going to have, the more self worth you're going to have. And like you're not going to need validation from external sources, right? And yeah, like I mean, maintain your routines as well. And like it's a very hard thing to do to stick to a routine when life is happening, right? And you want to like enjoy your life, but if you don't maintain your routines, at least if you're like me, you're going to end up burnt out, you're going to end up feeling drained, you're going to end up unregulated, uncentered, and then all kinds of bad shit's going to happen, right? It's in the moments when you're not maintaining the things you need to take care of yourself that it spills over into the rest of your life and then impacts everyone around you, right? So if you care about the people around you, you got to take care of yourself, right? And you got to know that like if you're in a relationship with somebody or like you have friends and like you have a family or whatever, like your actions are gonna have an impact on those people. So like be considerate of people around you, you know, be a kind person, and like ask yourself, like is this conducive, like is this gonna help anybody if I act in this way or if I say this thing, right? And like one of my biggest issues is like keeping my anger in control, you know? Because I'm generally a very nice person, but like if somebody's mean to me or somebody's like attacking me and like triggering my wounds, like I will get to the point where like I will retaliate, like because I can be very mean if I need to be, right? And like because this is how I grew up, like I witnessed all this like firsthand, you know? Like my dad is a very petty and vindictive person. He's the kind of person that like if you like look at him the wrong way, like he'll go out of his way to crush you completely, you know? And I guess I never realized how much of that I internalized and how much of that I kind of repeated in my own life, you know? But point being, maintain your routines, you know? And implement this shit. Like you only got a handful of days before the new year starts. and 2026 is shaping up to be, it's looking like it's going to be the year, I'm pretty excited to see what the new year holds. Mind you, I don't consider it a new year anyways. I consider my new year on my birthday, so August 3rd. That's when my new year will start. But we live in a society, so sometimes you got to play the game society wants you to play, you know? Anyways, Zoo Crew, that is it for today. Peace out. I'll see y'all